Hello, world geographers. Hope you're doing well. It is Monday night, March 16th, and I'm going to speak a little bit here about imperialism, just to sort of wind up the topic a little bit. And later, there will be a crash course video with some questions on it that you'll jump into, but that's not until Thursday at the earliest. You could if you finish earlier today. So I'm going to click on the slide deck that we've been working with, which is called Imperialism Across the Globe. You can find that slide deck here. I'm going to click on, show you this link here in the agenda for today. And I'm going to jump immediately into slide 30 on new versus old imperialism, just to give you a little bit of background that distinguishes the old way versus the new way. So the original sort of imperialism sprung out of the Great Global Convergence, out of the interaction between Europeans and folks living in undiscovered areas, obviously in North America being one, but that eventually Asia and Africa being two other main areas where that was undertaken. And in the 18th century and before, that is the 1700s and before, most of it was based on what's called mercantilism, which was a system where the home nation, let's take the UK, Britain as an example, would force its colony, India, to buy goods like cotton that were sold to them, that is finished cotton, by the UK. And the object of the British was to have a positive trade balance, to export more than they imported. New imperialism, which kicked in the 19th century and lasted through some of the 20th century, not only included this business or economic exploitation, but it included political, religious, and social or really racist undertones, in addition to selling manufactured goods. So the reasons why new imperialism succeeded, this is where you take your notes out and recall that you took notes on these terms. Wherever you have that in your notebook, take that out now and go to where you wrote these terms. And if you got all the way through big stick versus dollar diplomacy here at the bottom, be prepared to add to the end of that from some notes on slide 30. And I don't think you need to just write all this stuff down. You can listen and then write it in your own words. So let's jump into the reasons that new imperialism occurred. Again, it was different than the old imperialism because it wasn't just about economics and business. It was about political, religious, and racist or social undertones. So the first reason here, and I'm going to make the screen big, is industrialization. And developed nations chasing natural resources, it says here, like wood, cotton, petroleum, sugar, many other things that couldn't be grown in mostly European nations, wanted access to markets to sell their manufactured goods, to get resources and to eventually make those into cotton, for example, textiles, and sell them back to those countries where they obtain the resources to begin with. So industrialization also, in addition to the sort of industrial business side, provided new military technology like weapons and steam warships. So the example in the reading that you had of Britain crushing the Omdurman, that's in Egypt, rebellion there was a good one that demonstrated how the Maxim machine gun completely dominated nations that didn't have comparable technology. So the first reason for European domination was industrialization. The second reason, political and social. The Western political leaders were all about, in those days, competing with each other. So you can see the map here that shows the different countries spheres of influence, and many of which had colonies. And we noted in class that Britain had by far more than any other country, the tiny island nation up here of Britain dominated the world. But the French were no slouches either. They got into the act, as well as all the nations that are listed here in the legend. And it was a status thing for many of them. And it was also a way to distract the people in the home country, British for instance, who were suffering from industrialization by the force of nationalization, by the bringing them together as, let's say, British people who take a certain amount of pride in being having an empire on which the sun never sets. So that's the second reason. And the last reason that new imperialism succeeded, as mentioned before, was cultural, and I would say racist. And that is that Europeans came to see themselves as culturally more advanced, based on what we discussed in social Darwinist terminology. And they felt they had this duty to civilize more backward peoples by bringing them Christianity and Western culture and Western civilization. So that led to missionaries and conversion movements in many developing countries in the regions that we've talked about, Latin America, Africa, and Asia, that pretty much pushed Christianity and Western modern culture and technology on these nations as well. Okay, I'm going to wind it down and stop here. So you can take those notes and always refer back to the slide deck as you need to. That's just a brief sort of big picture encapsulation that you might actually somehow incorporate into your photo essay on imperialism in the context perhaps of a conclusion slide that you add, or maybe an introduction slide, but probably a conclusion that sort of winds it all together. That is, winds your photos together and summarizes them in terms of these big picture causes. Okay? Talk to you later.